Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.
Todd never sugarcoats it. Does he tell it straight? You bet. Does he deliver with a sense of humor? Always.
I always start my Sunday mornings off listening to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. It has tons of information, and he has such a great sense of humor.
My friends and I always tune in to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Hold on tight. Don't let go. It's time for the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Welcome to the Todd L. Levitt Marijuana Law Podcast. Good morning, good evening, and good night. I'm yours truly, Attorney Todd L. Levitt, broadcasting and podcasting. You know what's coming from the middle of the mitten, the Black Diamond Group mothership, in a beautiful green nutrient field full of hybrids and indica, sativa. We're a recreational state, and hemp is an agricultural product, and I'm a happy camper. And Craig Russell, the muscle, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing okay. It's a legal hemp state, as lots of other states are becoming around the country. Legal
federally, it's federal now.
I know.
It's an agricultural product. We're going to be talking about that later in the show, but we opened up. Come on now, really? With Skid Row, 18 in Life. Who does not love Sebastian Bach?
You know, back in the day, that was the band. You know, it was them and Guns N' Roses and Warrant. I mean, those hair bands, you know, they ruled the airwaves. And 18 in Life to go. And all that other stuff. I'm not going to sing anymore.
Yeah, no, we haven't sang in a long time. But that goes out to, and I know it's his favorite group, Mike from Mikey's Pizza up in Halen, Whittemore. That's his favorite group, Skid Row, 18 in Life. But I love Sebastian Bach. Anyone that can just belt it like that is a friend of mine. I woke up this morning and I just wanted to destroy it. And I was listening to some Disturbed and some old Metallica, some Black Sabbath. But when it came to the mothership, we started with Skid Row. But Craig, we have a massive show for the listeners today. This show is ridiculous.
Biggest show we've ever done, if not bigger than big.
No, this show is crazy big, and we have a lot of emails from listeners from all over the country, and a few from Europe we're going to get to.
Oh, wow.
One of the emails is, and I agree, we're all over the place with this show. This show is a reflection on your personality and my personality, and we cannot just stay focused. I mean, our attention span is everywhere.
Hey, who's the guy? Whose name's on the show? Come on. Whose name? That'd be you.
The Craig Russell Show, isn't it?
Whatever.
But so the question is from one of our listeners, and this listener comes from Petoskey, Michigan. With Michigan being a recreational state and other states, coming aboard and in the near future across the country and the world, this is someone who's never used cannabis. And the question is, what cannabis strain is right for me? So we're going to sort of define and just touch upon, some of the basic information you need to know if you're new to the legal industry. We're not asking anybody out there to do anything unless you have a legal right to do it. So we're going to talk a little bit about, when approaching a dispensary, how do you go about it? What are the different strains? What's a hybrid? So we're going to touch on that just a little bit here throughout the show, Craig Russell.
Kind of like a user's guide to using cannabis now that it's legal in a lot of places.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. We've got an update on the 420 Canna Massive Hemp Expo taking place at the Soaring Eagle Casino in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, free to the public on 420. So we're going to just give a few shout-outs to all the sponsors who have come aboard in the last week or two or more, and some of the awesome companies that will be in attendance. So some of the listeners who are planning on attending can look forward to that as well.
Hey, I've got to ask you, how did the Polar Roll go?
The Polar Roll, the Winter Adventure Race in Ishpeming, Michigan, put on by Todd from 906 Adventure Team and Danny. It was brutal. So this is it was brutal. This is a fat bike race. It takes place now, through 906 Adventure Team. Check it out online. And it was last weekend. So I made my way over the bridge to the great state of Superior. And for those of you listening around the world and other parts of the country, if you look at the state of Michigan, to the north we have Canada, but the Upper Peninsula is a state in itself, basically. So Marquette, Michigan, which is the largest city in the Upper Peninsula, to the west is Ishpeming, an old iron ore town. It's still mining. Great folks live up there. There was so much snow in Marquette, Michigan, it was up to the rooftops. And same weekend, that same weekend was the UP 200 dog sled race, like the Iditarod up in Alaska.
Okay,
that was pretty cool to watch that. But the race itself took place in Ishpeming. And it was brutal. I mean, we were hardly, and it's not Todd's fault or the organizers, but, we were walking and we were bike hiking the whole time, biking, however you want to refer to it as. But, again, Jordan Wakely finishes in the top of the list there out of Grayling, Michigan. But we love Jordan, and he's on his way to Alaska here soon to race. But it was brutal, my man. It was brutal. And something I did not know about, Craig, that when you are in a town where the snow reaches the rooftops, and you're parking your vehicle along the side of the road, did you know that you're supposed to tuck your mirror in? I had no idea. Did you know that?
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So the day I arrive, I'm standing there on 3rd Street outside Downwind Sports, and a truck comes by and smacks this vehicle across from me and just takes out the rear view mirror. The guy just kept going, and I'm thinking, holy crap, I couldn't see the license plate. He just took off, hit and run here, leaving the scene of an accident. The next night, I'm parked in the same spot, and sure enough, a truck came and took out my rear view mirror.
Oh, really?
On my driver's side. Oh, yeah, and I'm looking around up and down the road, and I come to realize that all these trucks have their mirrors pulled in. I shouldn't have to pull my mirror in. If I want to park along a snowy road, drivers just need to pay attention where the heck they're going and try not to clip my mirror. So, yeah, I got it taken out. I had no idea.
Well, you never know, because those snowy roads, first place, that snow is so high up, there's not many places they can put it. They have to put it up against the side of the road. Second place, if you're driving on a road that's normally a well plowed out 2-lane road, if the snow is caving in on both sides and you've got somebody you're passing, what if you have a car that doesn't have a mirror you can't fold in? I mean, most modern cars
Craig,
are.
These cars were parked. My truck was parked. It was in a valid parking spot. I was in a restaurant. Somebody came out and just smacked it. That's what I'm telling you here. So, I was parked legally, but apparently in these winter resort towns, I always know to put my windshield wipers up,
sure.
So it makes it easy. But now you got to push your mirrors in and whatnot. So, and it didn't get any better from there. No, we go out to dinner, and I'm with one of my boys who's, part of the Levitt Law Firm mountain bike team.
Okay.
And he's got, some other friends and family with him, but he's got a new girlfriend with him, and she happened to bring her grandchildren up to watch him race in a Polar Roll. So we're all having pizza and whatnot. I had no idea the lady was a vegan, right?
Okay.
So I happened to have some snacks with me, some crackers that I was going to use during the race, and they were animal crackers. And I went to offer her grandkids some animal crackers, and this lady went crazy. I had no idea that if you're a vegan and you don't eat meat, that animal crackers are off limits. Come on, give me a break.
Wait a minute.
No, I'm talking animal cookies, like a little box of crackers with little giraffes and lions.
No.
this lady went nuts on me. I don't even know this lady. And I sent my buddy a text and said, who is this person? Get her out of here, because animal crackers are cookies. There's no meat byproducts in them.
Yeah, because is it because they're shaped as animals? That's why she didn't want them?
Bro, I have no idea. I'm not making this up.
Oh, my God.
It's kind of funny, though. So if there's any vegans out there, animal crackers, really? Because there's animals on the box. So what I did was this. This lady was just so off track. I said to her kids, these grandkids, and they were, one was a boy. I said, hey, why don't you go put one of these crackers in your grandmother's purse? And we know as boys, let's just agree to agree. One thing you don't do if you're a man is put your hand in a woman's purse.
No,
I mean, it is ingrained in us from very early on in life. Even if my mother or somebody in my life who's a woman said, hey, can you go in my purse and grab me so-and-so?
Grab the purse.
I'm not touching that purse. No,
you just grab the purse and give it to them.
My hand.
Let them go into it.
I don't know what's in that purse, but since I was born, my opinion, you're going to get your hand cut off or bit off if you put your hand in a woman's purse. Don't ever put your hand in a woman's purse. But anyhow, I told this kid to go ahead and put animal crackers in his grandmother's purse, and he did. So I haven't, and then we left, so I haven't heard back. But come on.
I think we can.
So that's my complaint of the week.
Well, here we go. I think there's two things. One thing we can definitely agree on. Not only don't you put your hand in a woman's purse, but anytime a woman says to you, "Does this make my butt look big?" You know the answer to that. No, honey, it looks great. You never answer that one. No matter what it is, you always say no.
Now, if somebody's going to ask me a question, I'm an honest guy. I'm going to just give the right answer. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you have to hear. But I think all men out there from great planet Earth, especially in Michigan and beyond, will agree you do not go in a woman's purse. Even if they give me permission, I don't know. It goes back to my childhood. I'm not putting my hand in a woman's purse.
Just saying, don't fall into the trap. That's all I'm saying.
And one other thing, I know we're a law show. I'm attorney Todd L. Levitt, and you are Craig Russell, the muscle. But we have a lot of law to get to. Another thing that just annoys the heck out of me, teeter-totters.
Teeter-totters?
Teeter-totters.
Where did that come from?
Oh, because I was doing some fat biking and I came across a sort of a teeter-totter kind of situation where I went up and went down.
Okay.
And then it brought back some more bad memories, like the purse memory. When I was a kid and you'd get on a teeter-totter, were you the kid where your friend always jumped off and then your bottom ended up smacking the ground to the point where it sent shivers across your spine? When I was growing up, I could never have one of my buddies just sit on a teeter-totter and go up and go down. It was always somebody who had to be a smart you-know-what and just jump off.
See, I was the biggest kid, so they had to get like 2 or 3 kids on the one side for me to kind of balance it out to do the teeter-tottering thing. So even if one of them jumped off, I immediately was dropping down. So I totally understand.
Teeter-totters are just not safe. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's been one of those weeks in the mothership here with teeter-totters, animal crackers, purses in hands, rear view mirrors getting smacked off up in Marquette. But hey, guess what, Craig Russell?
What?
We are a law show, and we're going to be talking about, when we come back from break, what cannabis strain is right for you if you're in a recreational state and you're just starting off and you want to just dabble and see what it's about. And we're going to talk about that when we come back from break. This is attorney Todd L. Levitt with an important message.
What's that, Todd?
Craig, mark your calendar. April 20th, 2019, the nation's premier event for everything cannabis and hemp is descending on the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort located right here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
What's that, Todd?
420 Canna Expo will feature the industry's most knowledgeable professionals from cultivation, medical, recreational, research, staffing, Canna tourism, smoke shops, grow shops, merchandisers, glass makers, and more. Every facet of the industry will be represented on April 20th, 2019 at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. For more information on attending, sponsorship, and exhibitor space, log on to 420cannaexpo.com. That's 420cannaexpo.com. And stay tuned to our podcast for more information.
He was a young boy. He had a
welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Coming back strong once again, Craig, with Skid Row, 18 in Life. What a great tune.
Great song by a great band, Sebastian Bach. I think he's still out touring every once in a while. You can see him coming to a casino or something like that. Speaking of casino...
Yeah, speaking of casinos.
We're going to be at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort in Mount Pleasant, the largest casino in the United States east of the Mississippi, on 420. Why, Todd?
It's the 420 Hemp Canna Expo, free to the public. What a show it's turning out to be. I mean, there's a bunch of sponsors and exhibitors who have committed and are about to commit. It's going to be a great show. We've got Western Tobacco is going to be present, Broken Buddha, Rosebud Consulting, Cannabis Brokers of Michigan. We've got Michigan Made Mix, GR North Hydro. I can go on and on. The sponsors now are Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, Cannabis Attorneys of Michigan, Attorney Mike Camorn, who's going to be speaking, Magical Butter, Attorney Scott Roberts. You're going to want to listen to what's not only what Attorney Mike Camorn and all the other speakers have to say, but Attorney Scott Roberts is going to be present, and he's just a leader in cannabis advocacy and an outstanding attorney. Of course, you and I will be there with the podcast. You can meet us in person. Doc Rob's coming up from Miami. So Easy Roots is going to be in the house speaking. You know, they've been on our show. TRC and Associates, Michigan Made Mix. I can go on and on and on. Greening Detroit is one of our sponsors now. It's just really blowing up. It's for you, the public. So if you or someone you know is interested in attending, it's free. If you or someone you know is interested in being an exhibitor or a sponsor, be sure to call my office at 989-772-6000, 989-772-6000, or do what, Craig?
Go to 420cannaexpo.com. Not only can you see people who are going to be there, you can find out about getting reduced room rates at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort if you're coming up and you want to stay overnight. There's a big country concert that night, so maybe you want to stay and make a weekend out of it. The 420 Canna Expo is free to attend, which usually, if you go to another one of these events, some other place, like say in Cincinnati or something like that, you're paying like $60-$70 to get in. This one is free. We're doing it all for you.
Absolutely. Hey, Craig, let's get right to it. I'm sure the listeners, they're tired of hearing us go back and forth. Don't you think they just want to hear something about the law?
They want to hear some information. But before we do that, hey, how did Kate do at the big Polar Roll this weekend?
So Dave Cate, one of my closest friends, fellow attorney, great patent lawyer, son of Vinny and Andrew, and he's got two other boys. Big shout out to Vincent Cate out there, Vincenzo. Kate went up on a Thursday and was actually grooming the trails throughout Ishpeming and the trail system nonstop. He was out there for almost 72 hours, and he was so exhausted he didn't get to shred the gnar in the race. Oh. But we love Kate. We appreciate what he did. But Mother Nature, of course, took over, and the rest is history.
Well, that's awesome. Glad to hear that at least he got up there, even though he was unable to race. But so you were talking about we were gonna get into talking about the law. Really, on this law show? You're kidding.
Well, we're going to give out some information first. We have some listeners out there who have no idea. You know, they're in recreational states and they have a legal right to participate in consuming cannabis products now. And so they just want us to talk a little bit about, you know, how to go about starting. And the first thing you need to do, one, is speak to somebody and become familiar with the verbiage, the different types of strains out there. There's THC dominant strains, there's CBD dominant strains, and there's also, you know, balanced THC CBD strains. So to start off with, if you live in a state and it is legal, I would suggest looking on leafly.com, that's leafly.com, or High Times, or, you know, contact someone like Dr. Robert Townsend or an attorney such as myself and find out where the dispensaries are located, the legally licensed dispensaries are located, and make sure, you know, you do your homework. You know, look at reviews online, find out what people are saying, and I would recommend you visit these dispensaries. Now in Michigan, you have to be a medical marijuana card holder at this time in order to, you know, enter into a dispensary until everything is settled in place before the general public, 21 and over, can just walk in. But I would start off by doing some research, checking out the different dispensaries. Each dispensary has a selection of different types of products with different types of names, and it can be overwhelming. But I think what you need to learn is that there's, what the different strains are. These dispensaries have bud tenders, and most dispensaries that I've come in contact with, everybody is so knowledgeable and so friendly and willing to help. Now, TH dominant strains are primarily for those individuals who are seeking a euphoric experience. They're selected by patients treating anxiety, insomnia, depression, pain. There are individuals out there, if it's your first time, you may feel anxious with a THC dominant strain, or you don't like the side effects. I'm not telling you to go out and do any of this. I'm telling you, become educated. You ask us a question, and we're trying to answer it for you. But you can also go to a CBD dominant strain that contains only small amounts of THC, and the CBD dominant strain, and we talk about the hemp plant all the time, are widely used by those highly sensitive to the other THC strain. And these are also individuals who are seeking pain relief, anxiety, and other type of symptoms that the CBD strain will relieve. And again, make sure you speak to the bud tender and the people at these locations and become very familiar with the different type of things. Now, there's the balanced THC CBD strain, Craig, and that contains balanced levels of both THC with some mild euphoria together with the pain relief. So again, you need to talk to the individual dispensaries and find out, how they go about putting these strains together. You'll hear people talk about hybrid strains, and that's sort of what we're talking about here somewhat. Hybrid strains are a mix of both the indica and sativa genetics, and depending upon their lineage, they can take on characteristics from both strain families. And again, when browsing, these strains or these shops, you'll notice that they are broken into two distinctive groups, the sativa and the indica strain. And most consumers are very familiar with these two types as well, Craig. So, and again, they each have different effects. The indica strain, again, is physically sedating, and it helps you relax with a movie. And the sativas are more uplifting and cerebral. But, and again, we always talk about the hemp and the CBD. So become familiar with what the different products are, what the language are. Just because you want to go smoke a joint doesn't mean that you're going to have a type of strain that's going to just, put you over the top and have this huge euphoric experience. Some strains will chill you out and help you relax and sleep at night, where others will give you that euphoric feeling. Some strains help with depression, anxiety. Again, I'm being redundant. Just become very familiar. All these men and women are very knowledgeable. Most, if you're in a state where it's recreational, then they're going to be licensed through the state. Feel free to ask questions. If they don't want to answer them, then go find a different location.
Basically, so what you're saying is, Todd, for the most part, this isn't like reefer madness. This isn't like, you're going to smoke a joint and, you're going to go all crazy and blah, blah, blah. There's different strains that do different things. And sometimes you might not even really feel all that, the typical, I'm stoned or anything like that you see in a movie or anything like that. Because talking to people, because if you're somebody who's never done this before, you have no idea how your body's going to react. It's almost like the first time you drink alcohol. Some people process it differently than others. You almost have to experiment a little bit, albeit now you can do it legally. You almost have to kind of see what is right for you. And of course, like you said, the bud tenders at a dispensary can help you out. They can give you a good idea. Here's something that maybe is going to start you off kind of slow. Here's maybe where you would progress to later on, depending on what your needs are, if you're just using it for recreational purposes or if you're actually using it for pain relief or to treat depression or to treat some kind of chronic illness you have. Again, those people they're the ones who know. Do your research, know your rights, so you don't come across any problems, you don't have any issues down the road.
Yeah, cannabis contains literally over 100 different types of these cannabinoids. And start off by getting a feel and understanding of what the definition is of THC and CBD and what the different effects are. and how they make you feel. But do not do anything until you first consult with knowledgeable individuals. If you have a medical condition, a medical doctor, someone like Dr. Robert Townsend, just knowledgeable people. Knowledge is power. So definitely gain some knowledge there, Craig Russell.
Yes. Good knowledge and good information. Thank you, Todd. And we've got some more of that kind of information. We've got more listener questions coming up when we come back from break on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. We'll be right back.
This is attorney Todd L. Levitt with an important message.
What's that, Todd?
Craig, mark your calendar. April 20th, 2019, the nation's premier event for everything cannabis and hemp is descending on the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort located right here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
What's that, Todd?
420 Canna Expo will feature the industry's most knowledgeable professionals from cultivation, medical, recreational, research, staffing, canna tourism, smoke shops, grow shops, merchandisers, glass makers, and more. Every facet of the industry will be represented on April 20th, 2019 at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. For more information on attending, sponsorship, and exhibitor space, log on to 420cannaexpo.com. That's 420cannaexpo.com. And stay tuned to our podcast for more information. Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, broadcasting and podcasting all over planet Earth from the Black Diamond Group mothership. And Craig, we come to you each and every Sunday morning on 98.5 WUPS.
And Rock 105 and Rock 95.5. We just rock out of Traverse City and Sheboygan. And, of course, we podcast. We had a lot of good information in the last segment. So if you missed any part of that or you want to review it at your leisure, find us on any one of the podcasting platforms. You can get us on SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple iTunes. We're all over the place.
YouTube, Libsyn. Yeah, we're everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. So download the podcast. That's the best way to find out information. And again, we went through a lot of stuff in the last segment. So if you want to review that, get some good ideas of what is right for you, download the podcast on your favorite podcasting platforms. Listen to us like people in 36 countries all over the world and in every state in the union. Check us out. And speaking of every state in the union, we one of the biggest states that we reach, of course, is Michigan. That's our home state. And we had a question and email from someone, I think her name was Kelly from Alpena, and she wanted to know about snowmobiling and the penalties of being caught drinking while snowmobiling. Is it similar to drinking and driving, she wants to know, if you are drinking and snowmobiling and you get pulled over by somebody from the DNR or a state police officer?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So in Michigan, the penalties are very similar to a drinking and driving offense, but here's the difference, Craig. In Michigan, if you're in a motor vehicle on a roadway, you're going to be charged under the 257 Motor Vehicle Code. Now, did you hear what I just said? Under the 257 Motor Vehicle Code, anything and everything that has to do with a misdemeanor or felony in Michigan in a vehicle is under the 257 Motor Vehicle Code. If you're on certain off-road vehicles, such as a snowmobile, you're going to be charged under a state statute under the 324 code because it's not considered a motor vehicle on a public roadway necessarily. You're using the snowmobile, through DNR, through state land, through private property, and so on and so forth. So, yes, you could be charged and convicted of a misdemeanor with similar penalties such as drinking and driving. But in regards to your driving privileges, nothing is going to hit your Michigan abstract and show up on your driving record. So if you're somebody who's concerned about points, or you're one of those individuals such as I represent that are trying to obtain restricted or full privileges, and you happen to get caught on a snowmobile, it's not going to appear on your Michigan abstract. And that's the difference right there, Craig. There is a whole separate off-road vehicle abstract in the state of Michigan that is created as a result of somebody getting this type of ticket.
That's interesting because a lot of times I think people don't even begin to equate those as even being close to being equal. You're on a snowmobile, you're riding back on your buddy's farm, or you're on land that you don't think is private or public land, whichever the case may be. You think you might be immune to some sort of kind of consequences if you have a few beers and decide to go out and snowmobiling. For starters, not only do you have a lot less, most people have a lot less driving time with a snowmobile than they do in an automobile. Most people don't drive you can't drive a snowmobile year round like you can a car. So thus people's reaction times can sometimes be slower, especially if you're under the influence. And also there's a lot more variables that come up when you're riding a snowmobile. If you're riding through a wooded area, all of a sudden a tree trunk could be covered in snow. You could hit that tree trunk. You might not know what's going on. At least on a road, you have a pretty good idea. So where I'm getting with this is people are far less skilled at driving snowmobiles, for the most part, I would imagine the general public is, than you are driving in a car. Yet you don't think necessarily there's any consequences if you have a few beers and you drive. Not only could you hurt yourself or you could hurt other people, probably similarly to being in an automobile, but on top of it, like you said, it's not going to affect your driving, but there's a completely separate abstract that has to do with off-road vehicles, including snowmobiles, that can really damage you down the road. Otherwise, fines, jail time, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, you can be charged with operating while visibly impaired on a snowmobile, aka sled. You can be charged with a felony of operating under the influence with any unlawful blood alcohol content on a snowmobile that causes death. So, I mean, obviously, if you're on a snowmobile and you cause death, that's a felony, very serious. And a lot of people each year, it's sad. I when I was growing up, I knew one or two individuals over a 10-year period, that were friends of friends that unfortunately were on lakes and I hit a dock and one became deceased and another individual ended up on a roadway and a car hit him. A very sad situation here. But it is a felony to be operating also under the influence of liquor on a snowmobile or alcohol that causes even a serious impairment of a bodily function to another individual. So again, we don't want anybody out there operating any heavy equipment, any motorized vehicle, off-road vehicle with any level of alcohol in your system. Now, I've been on sleds. I like snowmobiling. We live in a great state where, that happens all over the place. And you have individuals who go bar hopping, from bar to bar, town to town on these beautiful trails we have in the state of Michigan, especially all across the UP, Grayling, all across Lake Michigan region. I can go on and on about it. And again, you need to be very careful, how you're operating these huge, heavy snowmobiles. And these things go really fast, Craig. And, it doesn't matter what type of vehicle it is. If you get hit head on or even from behind on a snowmobile or a car or one of those side-by-sides, somebody's going to get hurt or killed. So all we're saying is be responsible, be aware of the laws and the ordinances in the state in which you're operating these vehicles. In Michigan, again, you could be charged with misdemeanors, felonies, civil infractions. You're going to lose your ability to operate that vehicle for 1 or more years. So it's a pretty serious situation out there. I do represent every winter half a dozen individuals who are caught under the influence or visibly impaired operating these snowmobiles. So just be careful out there. That's all.
So, Todd, I have a question for you that I was just thinking about. And thank you, Kelly from Alpena, for your question. But here's another question. So let's say you get pulled over on a snowmobile. You get arrested by somebody from the DNR or state police for riding a snowmobile under the influence. And then let's say a week later, you get pulled over in a car, in an automobile, driving under the influence. And let's say you then have court appearances and or you have to go in front of a magistrate or whichever the situation would be, will they be able to see each abstract? Would a judge say, this is your first offense for driving an automobile under the influence, but I also see on your other abstract the day before or the week before you were also caught driving a snowmobile under the influence, and thus would they be able to see that, and would that be able to influence their judgment or give them some kind of protocol that maybe there's a problem here or something? Is that something they can do?
So, okay, let me answer this. So the question is, week one, you're stopped. You're found to be operating a snowmobile, aka sled, while under the influence of alcohol or visibly impaired. So you're placed under arrest and you're charged with that offense. Just charged. You're not convicted yet. A week later, you're on a ditch. I like to call the roadways the ditches. That's what the troopers, I think, call them, the ditches. You're on a highway or a roadway, and you're stopped again and placed under arrest for potentially operating while intoxicated a motor vehicle now. So your question is, can the magistrate, judge, prosecutors in the court for the second offense see the offense on the first offense, and is it used against you, and what's likely to happen?
Right, exactly.
So the answer is this. Let's talk about the snowmobile. If and when you got arrested on a snowmobile, you were taken down to the sheriff's department where you submitted to a chemical test, and I always recommend you take that test. Everybody thinks you shouldn't. You should, especially in Michigan. You'll lose your license for a year if you don't submit to the chemical test. Implied consent suspension, a whole nother show. But if on that moment you were fingerprinted, then that offense is going to be part of your criminal history. So when you go to the second court, of course they're going to be able to see it when they pull up your record. Now, there are misdemeanors. There's these 90-day misdemeanors where you're not required to be fingerprinted. So if you get a disorderly conduct, a urinating in public, you get arrested for drunken disorderly, at least in the state of Michigan, and most cities have ordinances, these are 90-day misdemeanors. Most courts, in fact, all of them, will not report these to the state of Michigan for purposes of criminal history background check. So if the first offense was a 90-day misdemeanor, now you got the second offense carries up to 93 days, and you're getting fingerprinted, the second court may not be able to see the disorderly urinating in public because you didn't get fingerprinted. Okay? I hope that makes sense, but to answer it more specifically, I'm jumping around here a little bit with Skid Row going off in my head in the background here. But here's my major recommendation to anyone and everyone out there. If you are somebody, and unfortunately those individuals are out there, that make some poor choices and they find him or herself, with back-to-back court appearances in two different jurisdictions, you absolutely, unequivocally want to disclose it up front to the magistrate or judge or have your lawyer do so. You do not ever want to try to hide something or, because it will be found. The court will find it. The prosecutor will find it. It will appear somewhere. It's better to get it out in the open, be open. Look, I'm not telling you to go in there and raise your arms up and plead guilty and self-incriminate yourself or make any admissions of fact or statements of fact. When you're being arraigned or otherwise, hopefully your lawyer knows what he or she is doing. What I'm saying is, as an attorney, if I'm representing you, Craig, and we're going before the magistrate to be arraigned in the second court, I'm informing the magistrate that there is a case pending in court number one. Okay? You're not making any admissions, but you want to have full disclosure. You want to be open and honest about those things.
It's kind of like you said, when you get asked to take a chemical test, you should definitely submit to it. Even if you are drunk as a skunk and you're going to fail that chemical test, if you don't do it, you'll definitely lose your license. Even if you do submit to it, you've at least got some kind of an opportunity to defend yourself. If you don't do it, you're just history. So it's the same kind of deal. If you try and hide it or try and be shady about it, that's almost worse than just saying, look, I'm owning up to it. Is it not?
Yeah, again, listen to your attorney. Hopefully he or she, understands how that particular jurisdiction operates. But I always disclose those things. I don't ever hide anything like that. I never give my hand away or play my hand, but you always want to disclose that there's another case pending. Absolutely. You don't want that to come out later on that you weren't open and honest about that. And by the way, I can't confirm or deny this, but in the state of Michigan, last week, a federal judge, get this, is blocking the state of Michigan from suspending your driver's license for those people that can't afford to pay traffic fines. The U.S. District Judge, Linda Parker, last week issued a preliminary injunction, and her opinion was that there's a strong likelihood that those who cannot afford to pay a fine and lose their license, that the state of Michigan is violating their right to due process. Wow. How about that? It was a lawsuit filed by the Equal Justice Under Law, it's a civil rights group, and they accuse the Secretary of State of running a wealth-based scheme in which people who are too poor to pay fines are having their license suspended. Are you kidding me? And so we'll have to see where that goes. Again, this is a federal judge that is currently blocking the state of Michigan from suspending someone's driver's license because they can't afford to pay a traffic fine. And just as in other states around this great country, if you have a clean driving record and you just lost your job and you get pulled over and you have to pay a fine and you can't afford to pay the fine, that court has the ability to suspend your driver's license until you pay the fine. And if you fail to appear in court on a civil infraction, you're going to get what's called an FCJ, failure to comply with a judgment on that civil infraction, and thus your license will be suspended. So I have always felt that those who are less affluent and cannot afford to pay these enormous legal fees in certain courts in certain states across the country are definitely at a major disadvantage. And this is this just goes to show what we're talking about. Now, most of the courts that I deal with allow people to go on payment plans. So personally, I don't know a court that I practice in that if you do get a civil infraction, you can't approach them or the court administrator or the traffic clerk and say, look, I need to go on a payment plan. So what happens is a lot of these people get these tickets, Craig, and they just don't show up for court, or they don't notify the court, and then they lose their driver's license. And that's not right, folks. Listen, I'm a defense attorney, but if a court, which most of them will, put you on a payment plan, you don't approach that court if you're responsible for that civil infraction, moving violation, and set up a payment plan, you just don't show up. Well, if you get your license suspended, your action caused a reaction that was negative.
And plus, like you always say, if you end up getting your license suspended and you don't have a job, how are you going to be able to pay for the ticket to begin with? And if you don't have a job and you can't go to work, how can you? Again, it all kind of ends up being this vicious cycle that hopefully it sounds like somebody's actually taking a little bit of common sense to deal with that. So that's a good thing. Hey, we got to take a break on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, but we will be right back to wrap the show up when we come back.
This is attorney Todd L. Levitt with an important message.
What's that, Todd?
Craig, mark your calendar. April 20th, 2019, the nation's premier event for everything cannabis and hemp is descending on the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort located right here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
What's that, Todd?
420 Canna Expo will feature the industry's most knowledgeable professionals from cultivation, medical, recreational, research, staffing, canna tourism, smoke shops, grow shops, merchandisers, glass makers, and more. Every facet of the industry will be represented on April 20th, 2019 at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. For more information on attending, sponsorship, and exhibitor space, log on to 420cannaexpo.com. That's 420cannaexpo.com. And stay tuned to our podcast for more information.
Still
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Craig, going back to the first segment, you and I were just talking about this during break when I mentioned that as a man, it goes back to boyhood. You're taught very early on never to put your hand in a woman's purse. And that's so true. And I think women will agree. I don't know what women carrying in their purses, but most women I know, it's no wonder they don't all have back problems and shoulder problems because those purses weigh like 100 pounds. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, guys,
I mean, what do they need all that?
I don't know. Guys don't have that problem. We have a wallet and a set of keys and maybe a phone, and that's about it. You don't need all that stuff. I mean, maybe they do, but that's kind of the big mystery wasteland is what's in a woman's purse.
What is in a woman's purse? Dude, if you're a man, do not put your hand in a woman's purse. Also, be sure to check out the list of sponsors who are going to be attending the huge 420 Canna Expo on 420 at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. I'm told our friends from Easy Roots are going to be in attendance putting on a seminar. I'm looking forward to hearing those guys talk, Ian and Quentin. So I hope the rumors are true that they're going to be there. Check out EasyRoots.com. It's a great company. We got all kinds of companies. GR North Hydro is going to be present. Michigan Made Mix is going to be in the house. Greening Detroit. Attorney Scott Roberts. We've got the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association in attendance, the Cannabis Attorneys of Michigan, Mike Camorn. Doc Rob's going to be there from Florida. Magical Butter's a sponsor. I can go on and on and on. MyCompassion.org. Check out MyCompassion.org. Great organization. Western Tobacco is going to be in attendance. And, of course, yours truly, Craig Russell, and yours truly, myself, with our Marijuana Law podcast, Craig.
It's going to be awesome. 420cannaexpo.com to find out all the information about it. It's on 420, which is perfect. And hopefully the snow will be gone by then. Hopefully it won't be winter anymore. I'm not holding my breath, but hopefully it won't be.
Hey, and by the way, that last segment comes with courtesy of attorney Ryan Slepp. My good friend Ryan, he sent me that information in regards to the federal judge blocking the state of Michigan from suspending people's driving privileges who couldn't pay their fines and costs. Look, don't rely upon myself. Don't stop paying any fines or costs that you have with any court in any state, in any court. I'm just talking about an article that I read that was sent to me by attorney Ryan here where the judge stops these suspensions for unpaid fines. So, but good information, Craig. And I specialize, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I mean, I represent drunk drivers. And one of my main specialties, besides cannabis law, is driver's license restoration. I probably restored over 8,000 individuals, get their freedom back and put them back on the road.
Well, so, and again, remember that, with things like Mardi Gras coming up, also St. Patrick's Day, still wintertime. If you have any problems with, maybe you do get pulled over on a snowmobile by the DNR. Maybe you do get a drunk driving ticket or something like that. If you ever need legal advice and you're in the mid-Michigan, northern Michigan, or even the upper peninsula area of Michigan, 989-772-6000. Todd Levitt. Make sure you call Todd's office.
Yeah. Hey, Craig, one of those something that just pisses me off.
What's that?
I mean, okay, in the state of Michigan and many other states, because I've done my research, if you are an individual who's going through the court process or the court system, or you fall under one of the categories where you're operating with a restricted license, in Michigan, that restricted license allows you to operate a motor vehicle to your place of employment, during employment, home from work, during work, as I said, medical emergencies, courts, doctors, as I said, and to your attorney, okay? It does not allow you to go grocery shopping or pick your kids up and take them to school. How in the heck is a state, any state in this amazing country we live in, we love the United States, how are we to protect our citizens if you're allowing them the ability to operate a motor vehicle with a restricted license, but yet you don't allow them to take their kids to school, to daycare, pick them up from school, daycare, and go shopping for them, or even, recreational sports? I mean, the men and women in the state of Michigan, I'm going to make some phone calls, need to get off their you-know-whats and amend these laws to allow for those restrictions, because I have represented, as I said, thousands and thousands of individuals in getting their license back, first with restrictions and a full license. But during that restricted period of time, they're very restricted on what the restrictions are, and it pees me off.
The recreational sports one, I'm not sure about, but definitely picking up the kids from school and doing shopping. That stuff.
When I say recreational sports, how about taking your son to wrestling? You're picking him up from wrestling. Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about, absolutely. No, this is part of life.
I understand.
This is part of life, Craig.
I understand. I'm just saying I don't necessarily know about that.
The state should not penalize your kids. Okay, you could say, well, you're the one that went out and got caught and did something wrong. But again, the state should not penalize the young men and women who need to get to their athletic events. All too often, especially these days with all the travel teams and whatnot is going on out there. Plus, what if you're a single parent and you have to feed your family? The restricted license does not allow you to go to the grocery store. That's a crock. That's a crock. I'm going to have to run for office. I'm going to have to change some things there. I'm just saying right now. And I'm going to free the weed.
Levitt, 2020. He's running for office.
If I was running for office, my motto would be free the weed, and
free the weed.
Let the kids get to their sporting events and the parent shopping.
Put that on a banner. That's what I want to see. Todd, I hate to break the news to you, but much like Skid Row says, we got to go.
Come on, Craig. Tell me it isn't so. I got so much more to talk about here, Craig. Please tell me it isn't so.
Going to have to wait till next week.
And what's the advice of the show this week, Craig?
Free the weed.
No, not just free the weed. For all the men out there of all ages, never put your hand in a woman's purse. Come on. Do we all agree with that?
Don't do it.
Yeah, I know my sister will agree with that. Craig, I'm not just a litigator. I'll see you at 420. Free the public. I'm an advocator. Sebastian Bach, 18 in life. Take us out, baby.
The Todd Levitt Law Show, brought to you by Chad Mallywell Drilling of Rosebush, Clark Modular Homes, your most experienced and trusted builder in Mount Pleasant, Clear Vision Windows, Siding, Roofing, and Attic Installation of Midland, Mackinac Properties and Northern Michigan Vacation Rentals, buying, selling, and renting properties in the Straits of Mackinac region since 1998, Tim's Collision Plus in Roscommon, Harrison Power Sports, Central Michigan's fastest growing full-line Arctic Cat dealer, and Dr. Robert Townsend and Denali Healthcare for your alternative healthcare needs.
Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.